So this is Teclast Tbook 16S. As you can see, it's a 2-in-1, so it has a detachable keyboard type cover, and it's powered by the typical specs now that are all too common, which is an Atom X5 Z8300. It's running Android 5.1 and Windows 10, has 4 GB of RAM and a 64 GB eMMC. So let's have a look at it in greater detail. So we have a kickstand on this one, so a design that's very similar to the Surface lineup, and it's a free position kickstand here, so it doesn't have a fixed angle. This is probably about the highest position you can get it before it would topple over, a little bit higher there, and you can recline it all the way back like so there. So you can use that on a lap, at least in this position, and still be able to see the screen quite well. Now the housing of it is made out of a very hard plastic, like an ABS style plastic. The hinge build there isn't bad. And we see the 5 pogo pins at the bottom for connecting up the keyboard, which I'll show in greater detail in just a second. And we have on the side a USB 2 port. Now, unfortunately, no USB 3 on this model. So we have DC in charging, but also USB 2 charging. Now, this micro USB port can also be used for data. 3.5mm headphone jack there. And what looks like we have 2 micro SD card slots is just one there. So there is a slot here, which looks like would take a micro SIM, but there is no modem on board. So maybe there are plans later on to have a modem version, or maybe a 4G version. But at this point, that actually does nothing. I did test out a SIM card. Nothing happened there. And we'll see that the speakers are both located on the right side, which isn't ideal for stereo separation. So the typing experience on the keyboard is actually very good. It's a nice quality keyboard, and they're 15mm by 15mm keys with 1.3mm of travel. So very good to type on. And if you have it lying flat like this, there's no bounce, no flex. Now you can prop it up to the angle there just to improve the typing experience a little bit. But then you'll notice there is a little bit of bounce and flex then. If you do happen to be a very heavy typer on there, you will notice that. Now the trackpad on it, don't like it at all. It's just too short. It's not high enough, making it a little bit annoying. One good thing about it though is some of the gestures, the annoying ones that you'll find in Windows at least, like the minimize and maximize, are disabled. Those ones aren't working. Pinch to zoom with an edge is, and that can be a bit annoying. Personally, I just use a mouse because I don't really like it. So the build quality of the keyboard is very nice. Clips in with the magnets on the bottom, and on the back of it is a fabric there, and once you close that, there's a hall sensor in here. So we'll go into sleep having that closed. If you want to, you can put that into sleep, and it creates a nice package. So the screen will be protected having the keyboard on it. Now the screen is a 1080p unit they have used in it with a maximum brightness of 230 lumens, which isn't that great here. This is at 100% at the moment. Now the colors are good, viewing angles okay being an IPS panel. I did notice that the actual layer on the IPS below seems to have what looks like a anti-glare coating on it, because if you do look very close, you will notice a tiny little bit of grain there. Color reproduction seems good. I'd rate it as an average panel. This certainly isn't the best 1080p panel I have seen. So the gap between the digitizer glass and the IPS panel below is very small. It's only approximately 1mm, which isn't bad at all for a non-laminated display. Touch accuracy isn't bad. I haven't had any problems minimizing, maximizing things, moving icons around, selecting things on the screen, or even using the on-screen keyboard. No problems with that. It does support an active stylus, which is the same exact model used on the X2 and the X3. Now it does have palm rejection. As soon as it touches the screen, you'll notice here that my finger now is not registering touch at all. Pull that away and then touch will be registered. Now it does work well on the corner of the screens, including the touch. The palm rejection is now not working as well there. And the accuracy of it is good. The harder you press, the thicker the line, of course, with the pressor sensitivity, and it is quite quick. So I do find the build quality of the Tbook 16S to be one of the positives of this. It is extremely solid. There's no flex in it. It does feel like a quality unit. Very well built there. So for audio, we have two speakers that are unfortunately on the right hand side of the tablet. You can see both here and here. Now I find them to be quite pathetic really. In Windows, they're not that loud at all. In Android, slightly louder, but let's have a listen to them. They're just not loud enough. They should be a lot louder than that, and because they're both on the one side, we don't really have any stereo separation at all. Now I will start out with the Windows operating system, just going to cover some benchmarks and further details here. So when you first boot up Windows 10, you'll have 22 gigabytes free on the 64 gigabyte eMMC. And I will quickly show you the device manager. So the eMMC drive that it has on it is a Toshiba, which is good. That's a proper brand. However, the speeds of it aren't exactly that great. Now, this is going to vary from batch to batch. You could buy one and it could have 70 megabytes per second sequential writes. My one here only has 29, so, you know, not really that fast. Now, the read speeds, they're quite good. They're not bad. I just also point out that the wireless card it has on there is a Realtek one that is wireless in, so not dual band AC, unfortunately. Now, some of the benchmarks I have run on this, I'll start out with the wireless. So wireless speeds were good. I did the same exact test with the same server from my desktop, and I got 35 megabits per second downloads and an upload of around 28. So this is actually more or less the same. Now, the range of it, having a plastic chassis, it does have alloy in the back. I found the range to be moderate. It's not too bad. When I go furthest away from my wireless router downstairs, the signal strength it drops right down. All devices drop right down, but it was still enough to load pages and things. But I'm lost around about 20-30% speed on that. But again, that is normal. The same thing happens with my Surface Pro 4 that I had. Now, I did run a couple of Ice Storm benchmarks here, which is 3D Marks. This is the score that it got. Now, this is a little slower than what other Z8300s can get. And I'll show you why in just a second. Geekbench 3 score, maybe a little bit slower. The multi-core score should be a bit higher there. And Ice Storm 1.2. Now, the reason why these are slower is the RAM is actually running at 1066 megahertz. Now, the Atom Z8300 can support 1600, which we see on other devices, but for some reason, Teclast opted to only run it at this speed. Maybe it was for stability, maybe the RAM chips they used. My guess is for battery life. So there you can see the speed, 1066 megahertz, and that is a single channel RAM. So the performance of Windows doesn't seem too bad. It seems like any other Atoms. Now, you see the animation there. It's a little bit slow, but that happens on all the Atoms. It feels okay. So you can do the normal light tasks. So Office, OneNote with the stylus. Web browsing in Edge is good. It's very nice and smooth. I'll just quickly load up TechTablets here and show you how quickly that pops up. And the scrolling is very smooth using your finger on the touch screen, which I'll use now. I'm just going to use my finger on the screen. You can see that is quite smooth there. Loads in quite fast. This is quite an image heavy website too. So if I just quickly go on this one, and you see that pops up quick. I haven't loaded this page before, so that was reasonably quick. Now there's an embedded video in here. That works fine. Now you can stream also 4K. Fine, if you use Chrome, it's laggy, it's choppy. I don't recommend using Chrome at all on an Atom chipset. So other things to show you. I'm not going to cover any gaming in Windows. I'll do a couple of games in Android and that's it, because I have covered gaming on this chipset so much. You can play titles like League of Legends and Counter-Strike Global Offensive, but you need to lower the resolution down to probably about 800 times 600 and lower settings to get anything near playable frame rates. So the things to show you here with the temperatures. So I have had it running for almost 3.5 hours here. Now I was benchmarking and I did test out a couple of games just to push the GPU and the CPU at the same time. So 68 degrees. Thermals are really good on this. The back of it just gets slightly warm, nothing alarming. So temperatures really good. And that maybe has something to do with the RAM running at 1066. So battery life. This is probably one of the best things about this tablet. The battery life on it is really good. I think the combination of a slightly duller screen and the RAM running at 1066 gives really, really good results with the battery. So it's almost going to beat the Chewy HI12 when it comes to battery life. Not quite. The HI12 still wins. So I'm going to switch over to Android now. We'll have a look at Android in a little bit more detail there. And to do so from Windows, all you need to do is just run this application here. So now on Android, we see it has a very stock ROM to it, which is good. Now there is some bloatware that is included. Now that can be removed. Most of it can be uninstalled. Teclast also have their over-the-air update system, so they will push through any updates if needed using that. So the performance of the ROM is reasonable. I mean, it's good. It's relatively fast. I don't find it to be the fastest I have used. No, I won't say that. You can see there with the animation that it's not perfect. It's not as smooth as it could be. Again, that could be down to the RAM speeds that they have chosen. So I'll quickly show you that it is running Android 5.1. Now, it would be nice to start to see Marshmallow instead of just KitKat. So Android 6 hopefully is going to start coming through to these tablets end of this year, I hope. It's around about 3 gigabytes. So you got 3.2 gigabytes of free RAM at the moment. So plenty there to multitask with. And I'll just go through now to my gallery where I did run some benchmarks and most importantly, checked out the battery life too. Now I'll start out with the battery life scores that I got. This is PC Mark. Test with this display calibrated to 200 nits of brightness there. 7 hours and 26 minutes is actually quite a good score. Not bad at all for the screen size at 11.6 inches. Okay, it's only 1080p, that helps, and it's not the brightest screen. But a very good score. Here's where results are very different to Windows. Now, if you saw my Windows score there, it was a lot less. So performance in the Android ROM, according to Geekbench 4 here, is a lot better. That is definitely a lot faster. The scores are way up there. The same goes for iStorm Unlimited. Look at the huge difference. So that's got something to do with drivers, or it just seems to be because Android is a lot more lightweight than Windows 10. iStorm Extreme score, that score's about the same actually as the Windows. And Antutu 6.2.1. So those were the benchmarks there. Now when you first boot it up and get into Android, you have 14.77 gigabytes free to use, so you can at least install a few large games. And there's some of the bloatware I mentioned. You can see there's a few things on there. Those can be uninstalled, those applications. So the last thing I'm going to do is just test out 2 or 3 games here. Just have a look at the performance. So the first game I'm going to test is Clash of Clans. Now, this probably isn't the most demanding game, but you can see there, just me scrolling around with my finger on the screen, that it's a little choppy. That's not as smooth as it could be. And the animations too. There's a little bit of stutter there. So I'm going to just have a quick battle against someone. Alright, so performance of that isn't ideal. I've definitely seen smoother. So next up, Asphalt 8 Airborne. It detected it to medium settings, so I'm just going to leave it at that and see how it performs with medium settings 1080p. Wow, it just completely locked up then. That's not good to see. And it's just locked up again, so that's absolute crap. I don't know what is going on, why it is doing that. Whoa, there we go, it's come back again, but it just completely froze up. No, I haven't seen that before. There must be something wrong with my tablet. You have eyes. Okay, this game is too slow. It's like a slideshow. Look at that, about 10 frames per second. That's horrible, and for some reason, the coloring of Sub-Zero Wow, that's just basically unplayable. Look at that. It's such a... Look at that lag. No. Cancel that one. So to recap my findings here, I find the build quality is decent. It's good. It's a solid feeling device. It has metal on the rear. It has a nice kickstand that is practical, good to use. And typing experience on the type cover isn't bad at all. I can find myself typing away nice and quickly with relatively no errors there. But I do not like the touchpad. It's just too small. I wouldn't even use it. I use a mouse when I have been using this for my review. USB 2 port, not good to see. I was hoping to have at least a USB 3 port on there. And okay, the stylus works well and it has palm rejection, good accuracy, pressure sensitivity. But the main letdown I feel is the performance. Now you saw there that it couldn't even play Mortal Kombat X in 1080p. Probably because of the fact that they have underclocked the RAM to only 1066. So very bad performance there, and I noticed some instability when trying to play Asphalt 8. It just froze on me, which again is really bad to see. Not happy with that. And the speaker performance. The speakers, no stereo separation. They are not loud enough. And now we end on a positive. Yes, the battery life at least is good. It's very decent. You can get around 8 to 9 hours on it, which is... Now if you want to find some alternatives, check out TechTablets.com. I do have a rating, a list there of recommended tablets, because this definitely is not a recommended tablet from me. Thank you so much for watching this review, and hopefully I will see you back on the channel soon.